Happy Monday.
Yes.
Yeah, excited to see everybody.
Times.
How are things in Arizona?
Things are great. Yeah, we get to figure out how to pivot. Like my business, as most of you know, is 95% from events. And so we've completely been reinventing our business. And it's actually been really exciting. Just enrolled a new client this morning into a brand new offering that we just created last night. And so we're just in creation mode.
I love it. I love it. Pivot is like the new norm. Like, okay, who moved my cheese? All right, new game plan. Here we go.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, I love to hear how so many wellness advocates around the world are pivoting literally every day to meet people where they're at and give them what they need. So you guys, just a shout out to all of you, wherever you are. Thank you for bringing it, because I'm hearing about so many people that never knew about essential oils before, that never knew about doTERRA before, that have come to know it in the last few weeks. So thank you for being that tree, being totally grounded and in your space, so that you can then send out a powerful message to, help these people come to know what we know, right? They just don't know what we know. So what a powerful time to share it. And I was just listening to Stephanie Giesbrecht on a Diamond Club call, and she was saying, be the thermostat, right? Set your temperature.
Not the thermometer.
Yeah. You are setting the temperature in your business. You decide what is happening and what you're bringing to the table. And I also love just starting the day fresh, right? All the things that we used to think were the norm, that this was how to run our business. It's time to get a blank piece of paper, right? So if you don't have a piece of paper next to you right now to take in what Chris is going to bring over the next hour, like, grab it, right? Because it's time to run our business not on history.
Yep.
But on what you are feeling inspired to do today. That's how we run our business. We run our business off of inspiration, not history and not the past. We run our business based on what works today and how we can help people today. So, way to be here, way to bring it, each of you.
No better time.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris, we'll turn time over to you, bro.
We're so excited to hear and be able to take our leadership to the next level. Yeah.
Yeah. And I, obviously the title of this training is How to Lead in Times of Uncertainty. And I believe, and I shared a little bit of this on the call last week, that the world right now is starving for leadership. And I get it on one hand, like granting a lot of people grace and time to like figure their, feelings and emotions out right now in this, but as leaders and entrepreneurs, it's like, we think about that for about 5 minutes. We give ourselves about 5 minutes a day, maybe, to freak out and like have fear and doubt and worry and uncertainty. And then it's like back into creation mode. And the world right now is starving for leadership, and the world needs your leadership more than ever. And I want to talk today about what I view as like what leadership is and what it means to really be a leader. And, I just want to give everyone an opportunity. I'd love for as many of you as who are willing to participate in the chat. I see that we have 50 participants on. What are some opportunities you've had since this has happened to complain? Like, this can be a total like vent session. And if you haven't had the chance to complain about it and you wanted to, complain about it now. Like, what are the situations or circumstances that you have had an opportunity to complain about because of a disruption in your life, your family, your schedule, your business model? I'm not even saying that you have, but I want to just hear, like, what are some things that you really could like be justified in complaining about? Tired of not being able to go anywhere fun. Perfect. Cristina, thanks for having the courage to kick us off. All of my events got canceled. All my vendor events were canceled. Okay, keep going. What else? Sad that I can't hug people, that people don't believe in the oils. You guys are on a roll. Keep going. I want to complain about my events being canceled. People are too distracted to take time to learn. Have a builder that quit. People who lost their jobs that don't want to spend money on the oils. Stir crazy. Kiddos at home. School canceled. Moving online. Stephanie, thank you. I knew that a mom or dad was eventually going to say, like, I have a lot of right to complain about my life being disrupted and being forced to do homeschool and not knowing when or where if we're moving this summer. People don't want to spend money. My leaders have other things taking them away from oils. I can't see my adult children right now. I hate that all the people I love do not have the tools with the oils. All our summer events are canceled. My in-person building plan for Arizona is all messed up. I miss my kids and my grandkids. Stir crazy kiddos. Realizing that I don't want to go back to work at all. I want to do doTERRA full time. So there's a little saying that we have in our home that was born about 3 years ago. And I think this saying really is a demonstration of leadership. And that saying is, you can create or you can complain, but you can't do both. You can create or you can complain, but you can't do both. And in my experience, when we go into times of struggle or challenge or trials or tribulations or uncertainty, followers complain and leaders create. Leaders realize that in those moments of uncertainty and challenge, that is the opportunity to pick up the pen and take ownership as author of your story and create in the present. And so I want to talk about this distinction between followers and leaders. Followers live life in the past and live life in the past of how things should be differently or how it wasn't this way or how, like guilt, shame, complaining. And then they live in the future around fear and anxiety and worry and uncertainty. And then they live life in the present around all the things they can't do. Right. And I get that we all are justified in our complaints. Like, yeah, like my gym routine is canceled. My, normal time at home that I have is canceled. My events are canceled. Like I can't see the people I want to see. And so we can either complain about those things or we can completely like pick up the pen, take ownership as the author of our story and create in the present. Right. So it's like, okay, my normal gym routine has been canceled or disrupted. Well, how do I create a new possibility of working out at home? My live events have been canceled. How do I create a new possibility of doing virtual events and live streaming that event from my bedroom? And I set up a virtual office and I live stream it, right? And I get that some of you weren't actually complaining, right? I get that a lot of you weren't complaining. I was giving you an opportunity to, maybe you have complained or these are the things you could complain about. Because I've done some complaining and I've had a lot of things that I've thought I could complain about. And I just have you see that, like, if there was ever a time to really step into full-blown creation mode and recognize and take ownership as the author of your story and pick up the pen and create a new possibility, it's now. And so there's these distinctions between creating or complaining. And when we complain, we literally close off all access to any new possibility. But when we create, we say yes to the universe pouring into us any and all access to any new possibility. And my kids have actually talked about turning Create or Complain into a company and turning it into an apparel brand where they have, like hats and t-shirts and things that inspire people to create. And I'm actually encouraging my kids right now, like during homeschool and part of entrepreneurship, that they launch that business. And I'm not going to force them to do it, but one of the t-shirt designs they had done that's really awesome is they have two people side by side, and one person has a cloud for their head, and then one person has a star for the head on the shape of the body. And the cloud is the complainer, right? That's all they see. There's no possibility other than the reality of their circumstances. And then the creator has like this star of like looking upwards, like everything's possible. And so how do you pick up the pen and become the author of your story at a time like this? And I would say it has to do with one word. And there's one word that I use to define leadership, and it's possibility. Sorry. Possibilities gets what gets created from this, but the one word that I believe, have you guys ever been reading something and you say the word? I was reading and someone had just typed possibility. It's demonstration. The one word that I believe sums up leadership more than anything is demonstration. And it's this idea that I can either talk about it or I can demonstrate it. So I can talk about in my home, like having faith and being positive and overcoming, or I can demonstrate that in actually how I show up. And so when I think about leadership, there's these three aspects of the campfire effect that we talk about all the time. There's what you're saying, there's how you're saying it, and then there's who you're being when you say it. And so on the last training, how to share your message in times of uncertainty, there was a lot of like what you're saying and how you're saying it. And today I want to focus on the who are we being when we say it? How are we showing up in a time like this? And I want you to think about this in three areas of your life right now. So when you think about this, like, how am I showing up? Who am I being? Like, what kind of demonstration am I? And I want you to think about it in your home, in your business, and in your community. So who am I being? How am I showing up? Like, what am I demonstrating right now as possibility in my home, in my business, and in my community? And what I want you to consider right now is, what are you committed to in each of those three areas? And so I'd love for you just to actually put that in the chat right now. Like, when you think about this idea of like, okay, leadership really is demonstration. Like, I can't come home and talk about the fact that like Smiths love and support one another and then me not actually be a demonstration of that. I can, but it doesn't work very well. Like, so the leadership part of it, the smallest part of the leadership aspect of what we do is what we talk about. It's powerful to declare it with language. It's powerful to say it. But really where it matters is, are we willing to be a demonstration of the possibility? Like, are we really willing to demonstrate it? Are we really willing to show up around that, like, as that possibility? And so what I would love to have all of you consider right now is just ask yourself, like, who am I committed to being as a leader in my home right now? So just love you just to start there. Like, who am I committed to being as a leader in my home? And then as you come up with that, I'd love for you guys to like type it out here. I'd love for some of you to share, who are you committed to being as a leader in your home right now? So Jeanette says a healer. That's amazing. Okay, what else? Dedicated. Perfect. Someone who empowers. Awesome. What else? A source of inner peace. Number one goal, peace. Love that. Show up with a servant's heart. Awesome, Darlene. Okay, so this is this idea of like, this is who I'm committed to being as a leader in my home. A positive example for hope and opportunity for my elderly mom. A lemonade maker. I love that, Julie. So now what I want you to consider, keeping schedules and commitments, especially for my son, to create a sense of normal in an ever-changing world. Powerful. So you're using language right now to declare who it is you're committed to being as a leader in your home. Someone who follows through, one who brings hope and optimism, persistence in the face of adversity. So that's the language side of creating that culture in your home right now, right? So there's this idea of like, I want to create this culture of leadership and possibility in my home. And I'm using language right now to declare that. Now, what I want you to ask yourself, for those of you who type something out, what would it look like to actually be that as a demonstration? So how could you, Janet, you said walk the talk. What would that actually look like as a demonstration? Like, how would I demonstrate walking the talk? Or Janet, how would I demonstrate a healer? Becky, how would I demonstrate dedication? Stephanie, how would I demonstrate someone who empowers? Lucy, how would I demonstrate a source of inner peace? Like, me as the demonstration, me as the leader, right? Like, I'm going to talk about it with my family. I'm going to talk about it with my children. But then how do I actually, like, what am I committed to around showing up as like the demonstration of it? Okay, so Jessica on Facebook said a support and positive influence for my kids and husband. Okay, so Becky says showing up no matter what, no matter the circumstance, with life and love. We are now making masks for the doctors and nurses. It's amazing. By being empowered, not being a victim to any given situation. Okay, so Julie, what I would have you see right there is you've actually completed the third piece. So this idea of leadership and creating this culture is one, language. So what, Julie, if I go back up to what you said, is a lemonade maker, right? I'm going to make lemons out of lemonade. We're going to like see the possibility in this. So that you've said that with language. And then the demonstration of it is, guys, I'm not just talking about this. We're going to get in action and we're going to serve other people. Right? And then the third piece is the experiences we create around it, which is we're now making masks for the doctor. So I just want to use Julie as an example that like the trifecta is language plus demonstration plus experiences. Language plus demonstration plus experiences. That's how we can lead right now. And I've just so far just asked it about in your home, but what Julie just said is we're going to stay positive. We're going to make lemons out of lemonade. So that's maybe Julie's using that type of language right now in her family and in her home. But then she's like, I'm not just going to talk about it. I'm actually going to be a demonstration of it to my kids and my family by choosing to do acts of service. And then I'm going to let all of them be involved in it with me. And together we're going to make masks for the doctors and nurses who are in need of them. So language, demonstration, experiences. And that is your leadership on display. Because Julie could just say, hey, we're going to talk about making lemons out of lemonade, right? And that's great. That's still a useful thing to be saying in the home. But then Julie actually not demonstrate it or not then create experiences for the family to actually like be it. See, what I see, Julie, what you're doing is you're giving people in your home an opportunity to be committed, like to be a demonstration of the possibility. We're not just talking about it, but like we're really, really demonstrating it. So Pamela says, modeling self-care, keeping my attitudes positive and finding new ways to do things, showing her that she still has the power to control her thoughts and outlook. She's seeing me work through challenges. Yeah. So Pamela, you're using this language in your home right now, right? With your daughter. You're then demonstrating it. And now it's like, what experiences could we create together, her and I, that would actually solidify this as like leadership? So Jolene says, we are hand making cards to send to people to brighten their day and teach them how to communicate with others on a personal level. Again, perfect. So Jolene's like language, I'm going to demonstrate this, and then I'm going to create experiences around it. And so it's just this interesting question that will have you see new things when you start asking yourself, like, who am I committed to being as a leader in my home as a demonstration? Not just in saying it, but like, who am I committed to being and how am I committed to showing up in my home? Okay, now the second thing, I want you to do the exact same thing when it comes to your team. Like, I have this team of people right now that looks to me as a leader. And they're probably not going to be any more committed to serving their people than I am to them. Like, my leadership is on display all the time. And like, that's what's so funny about leadership is like, it's never not on. We're always displaying and modeling, demonstrating leadership, whether it's powerful leadership or non-powerful leadership, we're displaying it. But like, I think we're all under a microscope right now because people are watching closer than they've ever watched. And so when you're looking at your team, who is it that I'm committed to being as a leader around demonstration right now with my team? Like, what am I really committed to in leading my team? I'd love for some of you guys to share that, just like you did with your families and your homes. Like, the commitment like, what am I committed to as a leader in my team, and what would that look like around showing up? And where are some areas right now you've identified that you have an opportunity to show up differently than you have? And maybe you can recognize, like, man, maybe I haven't been showing up as powerful in my leadership with my team in a time like this. Consistency. Okay, Janet, I would love for you to like break that down further. Like, what do you mean by that? That's powerful, right? Like, that's who Janet's committed to being right now as a leader to her team, is consistency. And then what would that actually look like? New ways of connecting, new ways to hold meetings, sending handwritten notes of congratulations on rank advancement. Jessica on Facebook says, calm, positivity, faith, resilience, showing up with a caring heart and being there to support and encourage their growth. Jolene, since I'm not seeing these people at work every day, I need to reach out in other ways. Yeah, Jolene. So again, I'm just going to take Jolene. Jolene's realizing, like, man, since I'm not seeing them at work every day, I get to reach out in other ways. So this language around consistency, and then the demonstration of it could be, Jolene, that you organize a daily check-in with your team, a quick video check-in. So you're demonstrating that by reaching out to them, but then you're also creating an experience for everyone to come together. So it's like, again, it's a language, consistency, the demonstration, I'm willing to reach out consistently, and then the experience, I'm creating an opportunity and a possibility for all of my team to come together and connect. And so that's that idea of, yeah, and if anyone wants to come on live and work through some of this, I would love you guys to. Like, I would love for anyone that's maybe that's maybe facing a challenge right now around showing up around their team, or recognizes an opportunity where they could be showing up more powerfully in their demonstration as leadership. If any of you want to come on around your family, your home, your team, any of that right now, just raise your hand and I'd love to bring any of you on live. Okay, Christina's recognized showing up on calls and on time, continuing to learn and grow myself. Yeah, this is a big one, right? Like, can people count on us when we say we're going to do things by when we're going to do them? Because whatever it is we put out there, like, is how we're modeling, like, the demonstration. And that's the thing that I really want to kind of really drive home is when we talk about this idea of leadership, and that your leadership is who you're being, like, it's what you're demonstrating of how you're showing up. It's also communicating to people that that's what they can count on. Like, that's what they can count on from us. So whoever we're being and how we're showing up in our home, that's what our kids and our significant other can count on from us. Whoever we're being and how we're showing up in our team, like, that's what they can count on from us. And then same in our community. Okay, Pamela and Janet. Oh, they're on live, Andy, is what you're saying?
Can you hear me?
Janet, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Are you able to show your screen? Can we see your face?
I wonder how to do that.
Down on the bottom left. Oh, there you are.
Oh.
See, Janet, 2 weeks in a row, you've figured out technology. You have no excuses anymore. I already knew you didn't, and then twice in a row, you've blown my mind by
You're
figuring
so
out technology.
motivating. It's just you. You got me over the hump.
Okay, so what did you identify in this? Like, what's present for you right now while we're talking about this idea of leadership and really being a demonstration?
Go inside. My husband's pulling up to Wendy's. Can you believe how bad my timing was?
Hey, perfect. Every time it's the right time.
You know, I'm really trying to stay optimistic and say, this doTERRA is giving me a great emotional outlet. It's helping me stay calm, carry on, and what I'm doing is just being consistent.
Okay. What does consistently look like? What does consistency look like for you right now around this idea of, like, showing up for your team or showing up for your customers?
You know, do you have vinaigrette?
For me, it's just sharing. I've been a teacher for a lot of years, and people that are not so worried about themselves but can really reach out to other people and do it in their homes, and just know that whatever you give each day, you're just a gift. Everything that you give and that you do is just, it's really, you can't ever predict it. You just have to be there. Get up, put your shoes on, and put your face on so you feel good about yourself and be there.
And so what I can promise you, Janet, is if you have this commitment to, like, I am committed to being consistent. That's one thing. And using that language around in a time like this, like, I am committed to being consistent and showing up as a consistent leader. But then if I see there's a difference between being committed to be a consistent leader and seeing yourself as a consistent leader. So you can say, I'm a consistent leader, I'm a consistent leader, I'm a consistent leader, like more like a declaration. But then it's also like, but if I see myself that way. Now, one of the things that helps us see ourselves as a consistent leader would be by being consistent. Like when our actions are consistent with what we say to ourselves about ourselves, like, that's what really has us be like, wow, I am a consistent leader because I'm actually doing consistent things as a leader. And then the second question I would encourage you to ask yourself right now, Janet, is what would that actually look like? Like, what does consistency look like around my leadership right now? Like, what would it look like for me to show up as a consistent leader? I promise you, you'll get new ideas and new downloads and insights and thoughts that are in addition to what you're already doing. So you're already doing some things that are powerful around your consistency, but it's asking yourself regularly, like, what does it look like for me to show up as a demonstration of consistency? And I think that's just something we don't look enough for. We're not looking for leadership opportunities enough. We're not looking for, like, who could I be as a leader? And you guys have heard me say this a number of times, but how you see yourself is how you show up. So if I see myself as a powerful leader, if I occur for myself as a powerful leader, well, then guess what? I show up and lead. If I'm sitting around thinking, like, I just don't know if I can lead. I don't know if I have what it takes to lead. I don't know if I'm an effective leader. Well, then that's how you're going to show up. So those of you right now who are in that place, who are questioning your leadership, and you're questioning if you have the capacity to lead and if you really have what it takes to be a powerful leader, then I would have you start to change, like, what it is you're saying to yourself, and, like, start to think about how you see yourself. And I would have you start taking actions that are in alignment with how you want to see yourself.
That helps. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Thank you. Okay, I want to take Pamela. Pamela, are you on with us? Hey, Pamela, I think you're on mute, but I can see your camera. So if you go to the bottom, oh, there you go.
Hi, sorry.
How are you?
I didn't mean to pop on. I showed up on the pictures. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm going. But
Hey,
yeah,
you're on.
that's exactly it. I have been terrified to put myself out there, have myself be seen. I'm afraid of judgment. I'm afraid of failing, and my perfectionist tendencies are all based in fear. So that's my biggest challenge, is to just take the leap. You know, I'm doing all this inner work, but once I hit go, I'm out there, and it's very scary for me. So that's
what's the scariest part of that? Pam, are you the one that said, I don't know what my team needs from me right now, and honestly, I don't know what I need from them?
I'm the one I live with my elderly mom. I have a very small doTERRA team, and I'm trying to grow it. Yeah, and I've been in doTERRA 2 years, and I'm just now starting to think, okay, it's go time. You know, I've been taking all this training and doing all these things, and I'm still on the bench. So,
yeah. So I love that. I love your honesty in it. And I think we can help you get off the bench and get onto the playing field where life's actually happening, right? So what is it that has you, like, what are you so afraid of? Like, when you say that, like, really honest, really authentic, it's like, I'm afraid. Like, what? So if I do put myself out there, what is it that scares you? Like, what are you most afraid of?
A couple of things. I'm afraid I don't know enough, and I know that everybody says you know enough. You know more than they do. If you know this and this, you know more than they do. The other thing is, I haven't had an opportunity to be a leader in my life. I mean, I've raised 4 children. I have 2 grandkids, but this is a different thing. And I've had the thought over the last month, what if I get a builder? I don't know what to do with them. You know, Now I have a builder, and so here I am.
So I love this. I love this, Pamela, because you are making up. Is it okay if I just be really direct with you?
Please.
Okay. I just love being really direct, and if I clean up any messes, or if I make any messes, we can clean them up. But you're just making up a bunch of stories that aren't true. Okay. When you had your first child, did anyone teach you how to be a mom?
No.
Did anyone teach you on your second or your third or your fourth?
No.
Did anyone teach you how to be a good grandma?
No.
Okay. So you successfully, to some degree or another, raised 4 children. You have 2 grandchildren without ever, quote unquote, knowing how to do it. Right?
Yeah.
But you had a commitment to doing it because you loved your kids and you were committed to them, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah, the only thing that qualifies you for leadership is commitment.
Okay.
Like, I'll even say that, Pamela, people are like, oh, you know enough. You know more than they do. You know what, though? None of that even matters. I don't care how much you know.
Okay.
None of it matters. The only thing that matters, because guess what never matters, is how. Well, how am I going to go out and, like, build this business? How am I going to go out and lead a builder? How am I going to go out and share the oils? That's no different than, like, how am I going to raise a child? What you if you're committed and you have love for people, the how always works out. The how just always figures itself out. Because guess what? The universe, do you think the universe I'm looking out my window right now and like these beautiful citrus trees and these like lavender that we have growing out here in our garden. Do you think any of that like is concerned with like how? Do you think a citrus tree wakes up every day and is like, how am I going to grow today? How am I going to produce fruit? How am I going to, the universe is the most amazing example of that. Like it doesn't worry about the how, it just is.
Yeah.
It just takes on what comes at it and it just embraces that. So any thought that you have around, well, once I know enough or once I'm qualified enough, but like, I can promise you that with that mindset, you'll never get off the bench. You'll never get onto the playing field. Like the key to figuring out the how is to actually get on the playing field. The how is working itself out on the playing field every day. Like I came up with a brand new offer last night, presented it to a new company for the first time this morning, excuse me, and got a new client with a brand new offer. Did I know how that? No, like, but what I know is I'm just committed. And I'm committed to helping people. But the how is a liar. Like this idea that we need to know how it's going to work. And I would just have you see that you are seriously discrediting yourself when you say, I've never had an opportunity to lead people. And then right off the heels of that, you said, so I raised 4 children. I have 2 grandchildren. Well, if that's not leadership, if successfully raising 4 human beings, tell me a little about your kids. Are they good people? Do they contribute to society? Like, are you proud of them? Like,
yes. Yeah. I am. Yeah. I have a son and 3 daughters. And I was 21 when I had my son at home. No one taught me how to do that. So I'm
yeah.
Doing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you think you could have done that without like some leadership? You might not have seen it that way, but it's like you exercised real leadership in the form of commitment. Like you were committed to figuring it out. You didn't know how. No one had ever taught you how to have a child at home. You figured that out. No one had ever taught you how to like raise these children. You figured that out. So what if, Pamela, instead of, you remember how I said earlier, leadership is all around how you see yourself? Mm-hmm. What if instead of looking for all of the evidence of like, oh, but I've never led people. I've never had a builder. I've never this. I don't know how. I don't know how. I don't know how. What if you chose to look at your life like, you know what? Every time I've been faced with a circumstance that I didn't know how to do it, I figured it out. Every time I've been faced with something that like was really, really difficult or challenging, I like made it through because like, that's who I am. See, do you realize that you get to decide which of the stories you tell yourself? And you can find evidence for either one. If you want to find all the evidence for why you don't have what it takes to lead, you don't have what it takes to build this business, you don't have what it takes to lead a builder, yeah, you're going to be right. You're going to find a lot of evidence that proves that you're right. But if you also want to find evidence for like, no, like every time I've ever been faced with something I didn't know how, like having a child at home, I figured that out. Right? Every time I've been faced with something I didn't think I'd get through, I got through that. That's also true.
Yeah. All kinds of things are coming up that I've done that no one taught me how to do. I just figured it out. So thank you. That was very helpful to.
Yeah, that's leadership. Yeah. See, that's what leaders do. They create in the face of uncertainty. They create when like there's something they're presented with that they don't know how. Well, guess what leaders don't do? They don't sit around obsessing about how they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
They just get into creation mode and figure it out. And you have that, right?
Yeah, I do.
You could look at this like, yeah, I don't know how to lead a builder. Or you could say, I don't know how to lead a builder, but I'm going to figure it out. That could be one approach, right? I don't know how to lead a builder yet. Or you could say, I've never had the opportunity to lead a builder, but I know I'll figure it out just like I figured everything else out in my life. That to me is the most powerful. It's not like I don't know how, but I will. That's still more powerful than just saying I don't know how. It's like I've never had the opportunity to lead a builder, but I'll figure it out just like I always have. Just like I had never had the opportunity to have a child at home by myself, and I figured that out. Just like I had never had the opportunity to, and the world has given all of us a really massive opportunity right now to lead in the most unprecedented way so far in the history of all of our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And I just worry that far too many people are taking this opportunity to lead, and we're finding all of the reasons and the evidence as to why we can't, what we have to complain about, how life is like, how this pandemic has like messed up our lives. And it's forcing us to look for all the evidence as to why we're not capable of handling something like this. When it's like, really, Pamela, you've been out in the playing field your entire life, figuring it out. You've just chosen that within this business to look at it differently, right?
Yeah.
So what's coming up for you right now?
Just I've had a lot of downloads lately, just kind of out of nowhere, that have been really cool. And I'm just kind of sitting on them going, all right, well, I need to do something with this, but that fear's gotten in the way. So now I'm really remembering, you've really helped me see. I mean, I've done some impossible sounding things in my life.
Yeah, give us a couple. Like you said just as I was talking to you, and I want to finish with this, but you said there were some things coming up for you that like you realize, oh, that's another thing that I didn't know how, and I figured it out. That's another thing. What are one or two of them?
My husband, many years ago, this is before computers, everything, wanted to start a business, and I figured out how to incorporate us on my own without paying an attorney, hundreds and hundreds of dollars in 1996 or whatever year that was. I've run a restaurant with no experience, a coffee shop restaurant. I've survived a snowstorm with 3 kids sick with the chicken pox, the flu, rheumatoid arthritis in the mountains with no power. Just in things that have required innovation and creativity, and there's no owner's manual,
Yeah.
So just all kinds of things like that, really.
Yeah. So when I hear you say that, I'm like, does this woman right here have the ability to go out and talk about oils? Does this woman right here? Yes. Like but see, it's interesting how we forget who we are. So the one thing that I would have you do, Pamela, is I would actually have you go back and write down all of those things, and then write down what you realized about yourself. Like, I realized I can innovate. I realized I'm strong. I realized I can figure it out, right? Because you'll never show up as a leader in a way that's more powerful than how you see yourself.
Yeah.
You will never show up as a leader in a way that's more powerful than how you see yourself. And guess who gets to decide how we see ourselves? Us.
Yeah.
And you might forget, right? You might wake up and have a bad day and like have all this negativity and this fear and this doubt. And you have to remind yourself, wait, no. Let me go back and remind myself of all the things I've done and who I'm committed to being right now, what I'm committed to showing up as.
Yeah. I'm loving that Natalie is recording all of this in the chat. Is there going to be like a transcript or something so I can remember?
I think every time we're recording with Zoom, usually the chat comes along with it.
Okay.
Now we'll post the chat with the recording at the same website, sharesuccess.com/ready.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Pamela.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Okay. We had another Pam, I think, that wanted to come on live. Pam, if you're there and you want to raise your hand, or maybe Andy can just bring you on. But oh, there you are. Pam, can you take yourself off mute and show your camera? Pam, I think, was really applicable, and it was really honest, and I really appreciate it. There you are, Pam. We can see you.
Hi.
So Pam, you were saying that you don't know, you said, I don't quite know how to show up to my team and what they need from me and what I need from them. So can you speak more to that?
Yeah, I know we're all kind of in the same situation. We're all stuck at home. I want my team to stay home, stay safe, be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So I don't know what that necessarily looks like for me. So I don't know how to tell them what it looks like or assist them in what it looks like for them. If anybody, of course, reaches out or contacts, or, I'm going to problem solve and give solutions. So I'm always going to be there, but I don't know how to step up to the plate and say, hey, let's do this, or hey, let's do that, or, they need to do what's comfortable for them in this time, and that's good for them and their family at this time.
So I love that you're saying this, Pam, because I think sometimes we have this misconception that as a leader, we're supposed to have it all figured out. And that's kind of a little bit what I hear in there. It's like, well, I'm their leader and I should know how to like have this figured out for them. I don't think leadership has anything to do with having it figured out. I think leadership has everything to do with I'm committed to helping people figure it out and creating space for them. And I'm courageous enough to be able to go to them and say, look, I don't have this all figured out even for me yet, but here's what I can tell you. I'm committed to figuring it out, and I'm committed to helping you figure it out. So what if we get on a Zoom call every single day for 30 minutes in the morning and just talk about where we're at and how we can support each other? See, sometimes I think the thing that has us hesitate to reach out, Pam, is we feel like we got to have it figured out first. And I've got to know how this would look. But that's no different than Pamela being like, well, I got to know the how, and then I'll get off the bench right out onto the playing field. And I think, again, there's this misconception that as leaders are supposed to have it all figured out. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think the case is that as a leader, we're committed to figuring it out, but we're also have the courage to tell people like, hey, look, I'm trying to figure this out right alongside with you. I don't have it all figured out, but here's what I can tell you. I'm committed to figuring it out, and I'm committed to helping you. So why don't we get on a Zoom call once a day for now, for at least the next week, and just talk about where we're all at, talk about how we're in this, and like what it is that we're committed to creating together.
Okay, so just by chatting it out.
Yeah.
Like, because I have to say, like, if my leader would do that right now, I would say, well, I don't know. I'm sitting here at home.
Yeah.
I also have 3 special needs kids, so it's not my like, I had a lot more time freedom when the kids went to school and somebody was taking care of them as opposed to being at home.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of hands-on work, and it takes me away from this a lot more than it was before. So where some people are like, oh, I have all this time on my hands. I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah, but do you see how just in this short conversation right there, you just gave me something that if I'm your leader, I now have like, okay, maybe I don't have this solved for Pam. Maybe I don't have the perfect solution knowing that she has these 3 special needs children at home, but now there's at least some possibility of me being like, what can I do for Pam? How could I support her and serve her in a time like this? But see, like, I can't get access to that if I don't get on the call with you. Like, if I don't reach out, I don't know what's going on in your world. I don't know what it is you're struggling with. And so sometimes a call like this, like if I organized a call with my team and did like a team huddle and a team meeting, I'm not showing up to that call to like present a bunch of solutions and have a bunch of answers. I'm just showing up to that call to create space for people to talk about where they're at and be like super authentic and raw and emotional around it. And if people are a 1 out of 10, I want them to feel safe on that call to say, look, I'm a 1. If people are a 7, then I want people to be able to say like, I'm a 7, but like wherever they're at. And see, and I think what the most powerful leaders do in homes, in organizations, and in communities is they create space for other people to feel safe in being their most authentic selves. See, there's a lot of leadership that actually has people not feel safe to be their authentic selves. It's a leadership that creates in kids, in homes, or in business, in teams. It creates this feeling of like, okay, I've got to be something or someone different around this leader because it's not okay to be my authentic self. It's not okay to share like what I'm most struggling with. And so again, I don't want you guys to think about that leadership right now and showing up right now is about like showing up with the answers or showing up with a solution or showing up with an idea.
Because I don't have them.
The first thing that we want to do is showing up with like, hey, I wanted to organize this team call, not because I have a big strategy for you guys or an idea. Maybe you do, but like, and you could say like, or I have an idea, but I want to say, but the first foremost intention for this call is I just want to check in with everyone. And I just want to get a sense of where everyone's at. And just let you know that like, you can be completely free to share what's authentically going on with you and like ways that we can support each other and just create space for people to be heard. From that place, you can create anything. Then you can share ideas, you can share strategies. But I know that for a fact right now, some of my clients included, they're not like showing up that way as leaders. They're not reaching out to their teams. They're not reaching out to people. And so, but I can see that some of the pressure that might keep people from reaching out is like, but I don't know what to say to them. Like, I got to have the answers. It's like, well, maybe that's what you say. It's like, look, I don't know what to say to you guys because I'm struggling. I'm in it too. But here's what I do know. I'm committed to you. And I do know that where we can start is we can just start talking about where we're at right now and what each of us are struggling with and how we can support each other.
Would we do that the same way, like with our customers as well?
Totally. Well, what an amazing time to reach out to your customers. See, like, there's a lot of people, Pam, in my opinion right now, that can't vote with their dollars, meaning they might not be buying a lot of product from you right now, or they might not be joining your team, right? But when things come back and people do have the capacity, they are going to spend their dollars with the people that were the strongest leaders. Like the people that showed up in times like this. See, leadership is most obvious in times of like struggle and challenge and uncertainty. When everything's going great and everything's going well for the economy and everyone, it's leadership isn't, it's a little more difficult to stand out as a leader because it kind of appears like everyone's doing good, right? You want to know when leadership really is on display and when leadership really shines is when people are looking for leadership the most. And right now they're looking for it. And so, yeah, reaching out to your customers and showing leadership to them, reaching out to your team and showing leadership to them. And it may not look like having the answers. It may just look like I'm committed to you and I'm concerned about you. And I just want to know, like, what can I do? That's showing up. That's demonstrating leadership. So I heard this really powerful line one time. I can't remember who said it, so maybe I should just take credit for it. But it was like the most powerful, like it said, I'm not going to get the exact quote right, but the essence of it was lead and like teach through leadership. And if you have to, use words. So teach through leadership. And if you have to, use words. And basically what that was saying is like, you can talk a lot about it, or you can actually just be it, right? You can just show it and demonstrate your commitment. And so, yeah, I think Pam, like I wouldn't put a lot of pressure on yourself by having the answers and knowing everything, that like having it all figured out, but just showing up right now. And sometimes there's courage in even you as a leader saying like, yeah, I don't have the answers. Sometimes that gives other people the permission to be like, oh, that takes pressure off me because I kind of felt the same, but didn't know if that was okay.
Awesome.
Same with my kids. Like when I demonstrate that kind of leadership lately in my home, when I'm authentic and share like, hey guys, I'm a little worried or I'm a little nervous, but I'm also this, it gives my kids the space to be like, oh, it's okay for me to talk about that too. Like really powerful leadership allows every person to be seen and heard and like safe for who they are. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. That is helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks.
Anyone else have something around leadership right now where they can identify something in their family, their team, or their home? And I'm going to go back up and read some of these questions. Yeah, I would just encourage those of you, if you have a strong team or like even one leader, the power of doing like a daily check-in with video or at a minimum a weekly check-in and constant communication right now. So Lindsay, great. You said, what about those who don't have a team? Just customers. I've reached out to all my customers individually. That's perfect. That's what I'm talking about, Lindsay. And so what I would ask you, Lindsay, is, okay, I'm reaching out to them. And, you know, just that question of like, how do I show up for them in the most powerful way? Like if you have that commitment and that desire, Lindsay, I promise you, you'll continue to get insights and downloads and revelations about how to show up to them in individualized, unique ways and like really how to be a demonstration to them. I know that someone said, I thought I saw a comment about someone said, well, I don't want to come off too pushy or too, I'm just looking for it really quick.
I think they said, I don't want to come across too strong.
Yeah, I would love, whoever said that, are you willing to come on live?
Here it is. It's Cristina. Let's see if she can. Yeah, she's raising her hand. Here we go.
Cristina. Hey, you're on mute, but we can see you.
There we go. Hi.
How are you?
Doing great. Thank you. What an honor. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, tell me more about what you mean by that. This made me worry about being too strong or.
Yeah, I posted a second one just a minute ago because see, my strengths are, you know, communicator, activator, positivity. And so, you know, I'm feeling very positive these days. I'm actually feeling extremely creative and inspired these days because I have the time to really feel it and act on it. But I know that I think sometimes just to a couple of people, I seem to come off as like they want to say to me, can you just calm down? Like this isn't the time to be so happy and so strong and positive, you know?
Yep. So one of the things, Cristina, I can relate because my top 5 What's so funny is I was really big in the strengths movement and strengths finders long before I ever knew about doTERRA, and then the fact that doTERRA had done a lot with strengths. And so my top 5 are like strategic, activator, maximizer, ideation, and communication.
Whoa,
So not only am I like an activator, like I want to maximize it. So I can really be like a curve for some people is too much sometimes. Mm-hmm. So the thing I would just have you consider, Cristina, is, and this has been said by lots of people, I don't know who to attribute the original quote to, but the person who talks the least is the leader in the conversation.
Powerful.
Another way of saying it has been said that the person who talks the least is in control of the conversation. So one of the mistakes that we often make, and this is really like a challenge of me to like stay present to, is that when I'm with my team, if I'm really showing up as a committed leader, and I'm really committed to creating space for them to authentically share where they're at and what they're struggling with, then I've got to create the space for them to do the majority of the talking. Mm-hmm. If I show up and I'm talking the entire time, or talking the majority of the time, one, it's not giving people the space to be heard authentically, and it doesn't make them feel safe. And if I can't hear where they're truly at, how can I lead them? Mm-hmm. Like if I can't get them to share with me where they are, like think of your children, right? Like if I have a culture in my home where my kids don't feel safe to share what's really going on with them, then how could I ever like be the most powerful leader to them?
Yeah.
And I have a tendency to do that because I love to talk and I love to influence and I love to articulate. And so again, I think sometimes communicators and activators and like strategic, like you and I, Cristina, we do get tons of creative ideas and we do have all kinds of things that we can share, but it's like, think about it this way too. Every idea that you would have to share with your team right now, which I'm sure you've probably had a lot of ideas and things we can grow and reach out to people and be creative. Think about it this way. Every idea is heard twice as much if people feel heard first. Okay. So your ideas will be heard tenfold if the people you're saying them to feel heard first. So if I facilitate like a team check-in with my team, before I jump right into like, guys, I've got so many ideas and I've been thinking of creative brainstorming and I've got so many different ideas for all of you. If that's like part 2, but if part 1 was like, hey, I wanted to organize this because I want to show up for you guys as a committed leader right now. Mm-hmm. I want to know authentically, like, where are you at right now in your family, in your business, with your community? Like, what are you concerned about? What are you fearful of? What do you feel good about? Like, I want to create space for everyone to feel really safe to say where they're authentically at. And all of us just get a sense of like where each of us are at. And maybe you lead out in that, right? Like amongst all the positivity, like you still might have some things that like make you nervous or things you're worried about. And maybe your worry is your team, right? Mm-hmm. And then you give people the opportunity to feel really safe and really heard. And then any of the suggestions or ideas you have for them are within context of what they said they're nervous about. Those ideas and all that creativity will be heard from a much, much different place, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. What do you hear in that? Or yeah. First of all, what do you hear in that? And I have another question for you.
Okay. I think definitely I tend to want to solve, issues or problems. And like you're saying, with all the creative ideas, I tend to want to always communicate them. And so that's an area that I need to work in, is to just, like you're saying, create that space, like still set up the time for us to meet via Zoom, but just not have an agenda. I tend to always show up with an agenda, like written out.
So one of the most powerful phrases I've ever been taught in my life, and I totally planned to bring it up on this call, and then I probably would have forgot without your help, Cristina, is one of the most powerful concepts I've ever been taught by one of my mentors is this idea he called no place to get.
Oh.
Because every place I go to as an influencer and a maximizer and an activator, I have a place to get, right?
Yes.
Every place I go, I have a place to get. My kids' baseball games to like church to like my business is like, and he said, and it's one of the things that we've actually incorporated into our sales training. So we have our own version we teach a sales training method that's all story-based that allows you to sell in a way that's much more authentic, much more human, and like greater outcomes. The thing that makes it really work though is we teach upfront this concept of no place to get.
Mm.
What if you went into every sales conversation and every enrollment conversation with no place to get? No agenda.
Yeah.
Well, that would create real freedom, and a new possibility would emerge that people would feel safe in that call to really share with you, and you would hear what they're really saying. Same thing in our families. We do a weekly check-in with our children, and every time I go into those with an agenda, it limits what's possible, because my kids probably have this feeling of like, why would I even share what I really feel? Like dad's already got like the outcome plan. But if my kids come into those weekly check-ins with like the feeling of like, no, my parents just really want to hear like where I'm at in my life and like how they can support me. And if they feel like I have no place to get with them, guess what? Magic happens in that. Like they show up in that. So having no place to get creates space for people to show up into it and authentically share, because they can trust that you're not going to like use it against them, or you're not going to like manipulate that, or like, so yeah, like having no agenda other than like, there is one place to get in all of this, and that's just to serve people, just to make a difference. That's the only agenda.
Yeah.
And then, now that doesn't mean though, Cristina, you can't come into it in the back of your mind with like, man, there's some really cool ideas I've had recently. There's some really cool strategies and things I've been brainstorming that I think could really make a difference for my family. And my intention isn't to have the call to share those. If it comes up for me authentically, I'll share it. But my intention is to serve and create this feeling and this atmosphere of no place to get. And so just ask yourself, like, all of you, what would it look like to have no place to get as a leader in my home? What would it look like to have no place to get as a leader in my team? What would it look like to have to show up as a leader with no place to get, like in my community? Like, imagine the space that could get created. And so I don't want you guys to think here though, that there's nothing wrong with sharing strategies and ideas. That's part of what they look to us for as a leader, right? But if those strategies and those ideas are a reflection of just the natural, authentic outcome of the conversation, not something we came in pre-planned that we're going to beat it down their throat, right? Have you guys ever heard the saying that when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail? That's me. Like, I have to really I just want to I'm a hammer, so everything looks like a nail, right? I'm just going to beat it into them. I'm just going to pound my ideas in, and I have to really be like, no, there's just no place to get. But if there's no place to get, then there's nothing to mess up. So you can, like Becky said, be fearless. You can be free. You can be authentic. And so tell me a little about the dynamics of your team, Cristina. How many people do you have that you would say like really look to you as a leader, like are builders, or like kind of what do you have right now?
I have 10, people that I would say are leaders. I have my front line of 3, but then they each have some builders. And so we've created a nice community. But yeah, I've got this one builder who has just said to me, and she was a real strong builder, but she's just said to me, she's had enough of trying to make other people work and get them, she's tired of trying to inspire them. And I did write back to her and say, yeah, that would definitely be frustrating to feel like you have to make people work. And I left it at that. But yeah, inside I'm just really wanting to call her and have a conversation and let's talk about this and let's
Yeah, but you could have that conversation around like, hey, tell me what, but with no pre-plan. And it'll be hard, because sometimes, being honest, I still have it, I have to fight it, the agenda's back there and I have to push it out. But to show up with that leader, just tell me more about that. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, because I hear her frustration, but yet she is such a natural sharer and leader that it saddens me. It just saddens me to see her feeling that way. And
here's the thing I've learned, Cristina, that when we show up as a leader to any interaction in our home and our business with an agenda, not only does it limit what's possible for them and what they're willing to share, it limits what's possible and what we get access to as far as insights or downloads. If I go into an interaction with the idea and the solution already concocted, I only hear what they have to say from the place of that. only questions, I think, the only access I get to new thoughts and ideas is from that place. So it's limiting. But if I go in there with no agenda other than to serve, anything can come to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So since this whole pandemic happened, Cristina, have you like organized a video call and just like a check-in with no agenda, just other than just like, let's all connect as leaders and support?
I haven't. We have a weekly call-in, and it's turned into a Zoom. We have a weekly, what we call our Trailblazer call. And so I lead that every Sunday night. So I did lead that, this past Sunday night, but only 2 people showed up. I've been asked to lead the one for our larger team tonight. So that includes a much bigger team. So we'll do that again tonight. But as you were talking, I was thinking, gosh, maybe Wednesday or Thursday evening, I can go ahead and set that up. Like just a team chat, no agenda. Yeah.
Yeah, you're 10 leaders, no agenda other than to check in. And I can promise you that if you're really present to like the possibility and you're really present to like no place to get, you will create something beautiful out of that along with your team. And they might say like, hey, let's do this every day, but like 5 minutes. Like we're all going to get on every morning and just share like, here's how I'm feeling today, or once a week or whatever it is. But if there was ever a time to solidify your leadership and like consistency around the cadence, it's right now when everyone's starving for it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that this was helpful.
Oh, very helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I almost said Natalie and Andy. Natalie and Andy.
We are one.
How much time do we have for this today? Like what do you guys have blocked out?
So we told people 1 to 3. So that's what they're counting on. Does that still work?
Yeah. Can I grab, I left my water bottle. I'm getting a little bit of dry, itchy throat. I'm just going to grab that really fast.
Yep. And we've got a question here from Angela. So you go ahead, Chris.
Go grab that. We'll
take this question. So Angela's asking, is there a hybrid way to do strategy and know where to get? So Natalie and I talk a lot about this idea of intention without attachment. So intention is being clear on, I'm here to serve in the biggest way possible. Like I solve big problems, right? I am a solutions provider. That to me is a far better intention than I'm going to sell you the biggest kit possible, or I'm going to turn you into a builder, or right. So like, that's the kind of intention that we have found is the best intention, because if you go into any conversation and you're in that zone, then you're watching for problems to solve. You're watching for, oh my gosh, like I thought I came here to sell a natural solutions kit, but it turns out like these guys are bleeding financially. The husband has no work, and that's a bigger need. So if I'm here to serve and to serve big, I'm gonna solve that problem, and the size kit that you buy, that's gonna sort itself out. That becomes immaterial. So that's one way that I see. Nat, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I totally love it. I think that opens up all kinds of possibilities, right? Because we are solutions providers, and more now than ever, you are in position to create massive value with the solutions that you bring, right? So even when we're back in the day and learning about, creating cash flow and like you create massive value flows to you. That comes in the form of, just peace, fulfillment, and finances. So that's coming. I love where you're going with this. Back to you.
Okay, I'm back. Angela, can we bring you on live? I love this question. Is there a hybrid way to do strategy and nowhere to get? Because yes, I don't want anyone to take on the perception that you just show up to an enrollment like, yeah, no place to get, and then they just magically like hand over their credit card. Like there still is or with your team. So there definitely is an and. Angela, it's not an either or. Angela, can you take yourself off mute and show your camera?
I think I just took myself off mute.
I can hear you. Can we see you?
I don't know if you want to see me because I just got off my spinning bike.
Okay, Angela, you're good. I want to see you.
Okay, So I was thinking of it from the perspective of a leader, and I was actually thinking of it from the perspective of when I used to not do doTERRA, and I would have weekly meetings with my team, and during those weekly check-ins that we would have with each other, or me checking in with my CEO, we would go over certain things. We would go over our prioritized initiatives. We would go over our numbers. We'd go over our budget, our kind of dashboard of metrics to kind of tell each other, hey, here's where we're at. So I guess what I was wondering is, how do you do that kind of like real life numbers check-in and have this no place to go?
Yeah, I love it. It's a great question. So there's a few thoughts come to mind for me, Angela. Like, if I have shown up as a leader with no place to get consistently, meaning I've created this trust with my team that they're like, man, Angela just cares about us. Like, I just know that she does. Like, just in who she's being and how committed she is to us and how she shows up and like creates space for us. So my point, Angela, is that there is a place where you could get to because of who you've been consistently, where you could just show up on a Zoom call and guys, I've got a strategy for you that I've been thinking about, and I think it could make a huge difference for you. And because of the trust you've built with your team and the safety that they feel around you, they would hear that and like run with it if it was aligned with them, or not if it wasn't, but like they would really hear it. But that's not created without some consistency. Whereas another leader who doesn't create space for their team, who doesn't show up consistently with no place to get, where people don't feel safe, they could show up and be like, oh my gosh, I've got the most amazing strategy. I was just thinking about it, came to me in the middle of the night, organized this call, had to share it with you. One, people might not even get on the call. But two, even if they did, it would probably just bounce right off of them like, okay. So there is an ability to just get on and share an idea or a breakthrough or a download or an insight, like, and have the agenda around sharing the idea, the breakthrough, the insight, but people still receive it and hear it because of who you've already been being. Does that make sense, Angela?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's just part one though. So like just with my kids, if I've created an environment, a relationship with my children where they feel safe to be their authentic selves around me, and they feel like they can talk to me about anything without judgment, then I can share ideas or thoughts, even if they haven't asked for them. And there's probably a likelihood that they'll at least consider them and they'll hear them. Whereas if I'm the kind of dad that's like, I always know what's better for them than they do, I never really listen to what they say, like they don't feel safe around me, then everything I say to them, they're going to actually look for evidence as to like why it's not real and discredit it, right? Now, there is a way though to also have a very structured tactical strategy meeting like you're talking about, where you go over the dashboard, you go over your numbers, you go over spreadsheets, and still show up to it with the energy of like no place to get. And what I mean by that is before you get into the numbers, before you get into the details, you could create space for people at the beginning to share what's present for them. Like, what are you working on this week that's meaningful and important to you? How can I support you? So that is actually one of the things that we started a weekly check-in with our kids, because out of a culture book, it said, one of these books I read, The 9 Lies About Work on Culture, that one of the things that consistent leaders do where there's really high like engagement and culture is they check in with the individual team members of their team each week and ask them 2 questions. What are you working on this week that's important and meaningful to you, and how can I support you? And I have no place to get, meaning I haven't come in with a pre-thought plan for you this week. I'm just wanting to know. And what they said, Angela, is it wasn't even the questions so much as it's just that someone was consistently interested in what was going on in their week and how they could support them. So that's a consistent action that we can take to start to build that like trust with our team. But it also, you could do that at the very beginning of one of these meetings. Like, so if Angela in her case, in her old job, if they had an agenda for the meeting, like we got to go over numbers, we got to go over spreadsheets, we got to go over forecasting, you could have that while it's still at the beginning, having this, creating space for people to have no place to get. Does that make sense, Angela? Maybe Angela's on mute. So my point in saying that, come on anytime you want and share, but also if I have oh, go ahead, Angela.
I think that's great. I am like a numbers kind of person. And yep. I totally believe in, showing up and listening and supporting. And so I was just kind of wondering, like where that hybrid is. And I also believe that showing up and with nowhere to get, right, can create all of the things that I want to like check in on with numbers. I just come from this pre-programmed business analyst background. And so I'm trying to unwind part of that and still keep the parts that serve.
It's
right?
useful. Yeah.
So just
no, there's a real usefulness, Angela, in like that background, because there's a lot of people in direct sales and network marketing, as you know, that treat it like a real business. They don't numbers. So I actually, that's a huge strength and a thing to keep. And here's the other thing. Any strategy that we want to share with our team or any numbers, they're much more likely to be heard if the people feel like we've created space for them. So people will hear if they feel like they've been heard, right? And so if we create the space for them to really be heard with no place to get, whatever strategy that I come up with, it's so much more powerful strategy I recommend is actually aligned with what it is they've already told me where they want to get. And so, but here's the thing. There's no place to get until there is. And what I mean by that is, if I do a weekly with one of my children, no place to get, right? And I'm asking them, like, we just did our weekly check-ins yesterday, actually. And I'm asking my kids, like, hey, so what's meaningful or important to you this week? Or my wife is. And they're talking to us about that. And we're like, okay, what can we do to support you this week? And they're talking to us about that. And we're like, hey, what's present for you right now? Like anything you want to talk to us about. I have no place to get so that I can listen to what they're really saying, right? And I'm getting access to like questions to ask them that are just coming through me. And I'm getting access to like things I should share with them. And as a result of that, my kids are really authentically sharing with me, like really feel safe. There's no place to get them until there is. And what I mean by that is because I feel like I've earned the right, because I've created the space and I've showed up present with no place to get, trusted me with that. Now that I get the download of the insight of like, hey, here's what I think would make a difference for you. Now there is a place to get. Because now I have something to share with them that I authentically know could make a difference for them. And I have an obligation to share that with them. But I'm not sharing it with them because I'm obligated because it was the agenda that I came in with. I'm obligated because I care about them and I love them. And I have something that I really think could help them. Does that make sense? So it's like,
that's awesome. Thank you so much.
So not only, Angela, is it now that I actually have an obligation to be bold and committed to them. So think about this in an enrollment conversation, or think about this in a hard conversation with one of your leaders. You're sitting there and you show up to an interaction with one of your leaders, no place to get, right? And as a result, they open up and they share and they're talking about what they're frustrated with in their business. They're talking about what they're challenged by, and you're just listening and listening. And because you're listening with no place to get, you get this insight or this download of something that could really make a difference for them. You are absolutely now justified in sharing it and being bold around it. And they will receive it as such because they know that you're not saying it because you came into the meeting with some pre-agenda to already say it. They know that you're saying it because you're committed to them. And people are dying to have other people committed to them. Do you guys realize in my 38 years on this earth, and maybe this is like says more about me than other people, but I'm just saying, in my 38 years on this earth, I can probably count on one hand, maybe two, the number of people that have been so committed to me and cared enough about me that they were willing to show up and like share something with me that was really difficult for them to say, that like I needed to hear, that I couldn't see. Like people that could like were observing me in my business or in my personal life and could just see that like, man, Chris, that is not good what you're doing, or I don't think that's powerful, that cared enough about me to be like, Chris, I think there's something you need to hear. And like, it's not going to be easy for you to hear, and it's not going to be easy for me to say, but like, I care so much about you that like people are dying for leaders to be committed to them. And what commitment looks like is it looks like I'm so committed to you that I'm going to grant space for you to be your authentic self with no judgment. I'm so committed to you that I'm going to show up with no agenda just to see like what's possible around how I can serve you. And I'm so committed to you that if I do get an insight though, or a download around something that can make a difference for you, you can promise, you can guarantee that I'm going to share it with you. And I'm not going to filter anything, because and it's nothing to do with me just letting you have it, or it's nothing to do with me like, just caring alone. It's like, I'm committed to you. And the marriage counselor that you guys have heard me tell this story, some of you, that saved our marriage, like, and helped save our marriage and helps like save my life. He was just a committed leader. He wasn't a marriage counselor. Like when we showed up to his office that day, he said like, look, I'm not here to save your marriage. Which basically, what was he saying? And I never really thought about that until just now. When we showed up and then we sit down, and the very first thing he says to us is like, look, the first thing you have to know is I'm not here to save your marriage. It's not my job. What he was saying is I have no place to get. I don't have any pre-planned agenda. Like you would think, because I'm a marriage counselor, like I'm here to like get you as my clients and save your marriage. No, like I have no place to get. Like I'm not here to save your marriage. I am here to hear your story and listen to like what it is that has you at this place in your life, and then share with you my story. And here's what I'll promise you. If I believe that you guys could make us as a couple, I'll tell you that. I don't think you should be married I'll tell you that. But like basically saying like, I have no place to get. I'm just here with you as human beings. Because he was committed. So yeah, Jolene, you're right. If you're seeing in this, like, man, I haven't been committed. Like, or at least like I thought I was. Yeah, you can reset it. You can reset it every single day. You can decide like, who could I be in my home today as like a real demonstration of leadership with no place to get, but like real commitment. Who could I be in my team? Who could I be for my clients, my customers, right?
I love that. I have a place on my like placeholder agenda that's called open floor, where you can just basically share anything. And as you know, Natalie Goddard loves to wave her magic wand. So sometimes I'll say, if you were waving your magic wand and you could tell me anything that you feel like would help me, right? What would that be? And it's just this space, right? That there's always an open floor to share something that you're seeing in the spirit of love, right?
Yeah. And I love that, Angela. And to me, what I've learned for me is the spirit of love means no judgment. And I may not agree with it. Like I may not agree with your approach. I may not agree with your worldview. I may not agree with but I don't have to judge you. Like that's a hard thing. Like I think that's one of the hardest things about leadership in your home or in your business is like, do I really have what it takes to grant people space to be seen and heard and valued for who they are and feel safe in it without judgment?
So I think Natalie and Andy are really great at that. And I would maybe love to hear from them for a minute on some of the ways that they do that. I get to be a participant in that on a regular basis, but maybe not everybody else.
I would love to hear that too. Natalie, you guys want to share something on that?
I'm going to change my Zoom username to Natalie or Andalie. I like it.
It's awesome.
Gosh, I mean, intention without attachment, it takes so many shapes and forms. As you were talking though, Chris, it just occurred to me that Natalie really has this innate gift to come to any relationship with that deep commitment that you're describing to serving them at such a deep level. She also has restorative as one of her top 5 gifts. And so she just like, with that vision and with that commitment, she just breathes hope and belief into every conversation. And what occurred to me is the whole empowered success system is designed with that as the mindset. But like, I'm just so grateful that we're getting this mindset training right now, because without that mindset, it's such a hollow shell. Like trying to tell people the scripts and the actions to go through without that heart space, without that, like, I am here for you and I will go through mountain or valley or heaven or hell to help you see and get what you want. Like it, I don't know. I'm just getting this like huge witness, like, man, this is what we need right now. This is what, and I don't know how to transfer that better than you. So like, you know, here's the download, the software, take it, you know?
Well, I think one of the things, and then I would love to hear Natalie talk, is like, I think we think we're committed. And that's part of the challenge. And I don't mean that I don't mean that like negatively, like we're not, but like even myself, it's like, oh yeah, I'm committed. I throw that term around so loosely, like, oh, I'm committed to my health. Yeah, I'm committed to my family. Yeah, I'm committed to, but then you hold up a different definition of commitment to it. And one of my favorite definitions of commitment that I heard at a leadership conference was that when I'm committed, there's nothing I won't do. There's nothing I won't say. There's no place I won't go. So there's nothing I won't do. There's nothing I won't say. There's no place I won't go. So now anything I say I'm committed to, I hold that definition up against it. And I'm like, well, am I really committed? Right? Like, am I saying I'm committed? Like, there's nothing I won't do. There's nothing I won't say. There's no place I won't go. Or is it like, yeah, it's like I'm committed. And so, yeah, Natalie, do you have anything you would?
I love that definition of commitment. And to me, like when I remember that person doesn't know what I know, then I show up completely differently. You know, I'm not personally offended if they don't take in the oils because they don't know what I know, right? So that helps me stay committed and not take things personally. Is just remembering their positioning. Like, I was there once, I didn't know too. So because I know, and because I'm one that knows, I stand in this place of there's nothing I won't do, there's nothing I won't say, and there's no place I won't go to empower you.
Yeah. That's leadership. Like that's, and do you realize how many people don't have someone in their life that's committed to them to that level? That would, like, if one person showed up for them like that, like if one person cared enough about them to actually like be that for them as a demonstration, it would be like, they would follow it. Because there's so little of that, really. So little of that before the pandemic, and now people are starved for it even more. Like, the more uncertainty there is, even the more we crave someone to just be like committed to us. And I hear one of the things I hear all the time in doTERRA, I hear all like, and I know this is a lot in direct sales and network marketing, but I hear it a lot in doTERRA specifically, is like, man, I just wish I could lock arms with more builders and people that just didn't need to be motivated. And like, I wish I could just find people that were just like go-getters and just like, it's like, but we'll never attract leaders that are more committed than our own like demonstration of leadership. Like who is on display. And so it's like, if we want to attract really committed leaders that are going to lock arms and build with us, and they don't need to be motivated, and they don't need pep talks all the time, it's like, then we have to ask ourselves, like, well, who are we being as leaders? Like, who are we being in like our commitment? It's no different than like, man, I just want my kids to be more kind to each other. I just want my kids to listen more. I just want my kids to this. I just want my kids to that. And it's like, well, okay, all of those things I just said that I really wish my kids would do, like, who am I being in that? How am I demonstrating? Like, what's my commitment? But it's never going to be perfect. Like, there are times where I want to be like really like grumpy and short and yell at my kids. And then, yeah, I do expect them to also still be kind, right? If I'm just being honest, like, there's all the, like, that happens to all of us in every area. It's like, yeah, I want to be short with you, and gosh dang it, go out and be nice to your brother. And they still might pull it off, but probably not. Like, it's always on display. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear from anyone else. Like, what is it you really struggle with in your leadership? Or maybe this idea of commitment that we could help you with, or that if someone's willing to come on live with us. Okay, Jolene says, I need to get out of the headspace that me being committed to you is not just me bugging you. Oh, that's powerful. Jolene, would you be willing to come on and talk about that a little bit? And then what else? What else are you guys struggling with around leadership or commitment, or this idea of like kind of who you're being and how you're showing up as a leader? Becky says, I struggle being consistent as I switch things up when it seems like it is not working. I see now that is not being there. That's awesome. Okay, Jolene, can you take yourself off mute?
Got it.
There you are. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
So tell me more about this. Being committed to you is not just me bugging you.
I love people. 7 of my top 10 are relationship. And so I truly am committed to being there for other people and what can I do? And I really have a servant attitude. But sometimes that feels like to me, sorry, that people don't necessarily care. Like, is what I'm giving important enough for people to care about?
What is that, something that's just limited to the doTERRA business, Jolene, or has that been something that you've seen kind of throughout your life?
Throughout my life, because I want to be there for everybody. I want to help everybody. I would give the shirt off my back to anybody who I know. And sometimes it seems like, I don't know if people just don't know how to accept that, or if I just feel like whatever it is that I'm giving isn't really worth it.
Yeah.
To other people.
Yeah, because what's so, thank you for sharing this, Jolene, because I think there's so many people that can relate. I think that it sounds like most of your life, you've had this just genuine love for people and care for people and wanting to help them. And whether they seem to care or not, or whether they seem to value it or not, I don't think will ever matter, Jolene, until you decide that it matters and that it's enough. Because here's what's interesting. Even if you did have all these people that received your care and they were like, wow, this is enough, right? And valued it. If you still question it though all the time in your own mind, none of it changes. Does that make sense?
That absolutely makes sense.
But that's what I was talking about earlier. It's like how we see ourselves isn't just how we show up, it's what we believe. So while you may have had a lot of experiences in your life, Jolene, that have proved to you that like it doesn't matter how much I give, people just don't seem to care and they don't seem to receive it. You also might see that like, but that's also a belief I've had my whole life. I've always believed that no matter how much I give, it's not enough. That no matter how much I give, it's like, or no matter how much I show I care, it's not enough. Well, what if you just decided that like, it's enough? Right?
Right.
What if you just decided I'm enough? Like before I give to another person, I'm already enough. Before I care about another human being, I'm enough. Because I can promise you, you can't outgive and outcare how you see yourself.
That's very true. And that's sometimes the hardest person to look at and help is the one that I see in the mirror.
Totally. All of us, though. It's like I was talking with my wife about this the other day, and she's like, she did this really powerful transformational leadership program that was like a huge commitment for her and our family and a bunch of sacrifices. And she's like, I just thought that like, I'd come out of this thing like a transformed being, you know? And I'm like, well, I see a lot of areas where you did transform. She does too. And I said, but here's what I believe. I was telling my wife this. Like, the transformation doesn't happen because of like a leadership program. The transformation doesn't happen because of like a certification. The transformation happens because you decide. Like, what if you would have made the decision before you ever went through that you already were transformed? You already were enough. You're just going to this to even become more.
Hmm.
Like
that would make it even more powerful.
Yeah. Like, so for you, Jolene, what if it's like, I don't like give and serve and show people I care a lot to replace something that's missing in me. I give and I serve and I care a lot just because that's already how I see myself. I'm already enough, but I do that because I just really love it. And so I would just say, like, yeah, you're like, and that's the thing I want people to realize when they come to work with us on their story and their message. And some of you asked about your story and your message and your through line. And I'll try to get to that. But it's like, no, you're not coming to work with me on your story and your message and go through the campfire effect because your story's not enough. Your story's enough as it is. It already matters. You're just coming to us to find like the deeper truth about it and allow it to impact more people, right?
Right.
But we have to come to this place where we really believe, independent of anything else. Like, I don't need doTERRA to be enough. I don't need the oils to be enough. I don't need my wife to be enough. I don't need my kids to behave well to be enough. I don't need my business to be successful to be enough. Like, what if just independent of everything in the world, I'm enough? And why? Just because I am. Because I'm a child of God. Because I'm here and I'm alive and I'm on this planet. Like, that just makes me enough. Now, and because I'm enough, it's not like, well, I don't know if I'm enough, but, or it's like, no, and being that I'm enough, yes, it brings me a lot of fulfillment and joy to have a successful business. But it doesn't do it has nothing to do with my enoughness. Like, I'm already enough. It's just, that's just a thing that I get to go out and do to make a difference for people. Yes, having children that are like powerful, positive, good human beings in the world would bring me a lot of joy and happiness and fulfillment, but it has nothing to do with me being enough. Right? Like, I just think when we realize, like, I don't need anyone or anything to be enough or justify my existence. Like, I already am. And I don't think it'll change anything with your desire to serve and care for people. But you'll be able to do it from this place of freedom and not having to like always worry like, well, did they like it? Did they receive it? Am I being too pushy? Did they even care? It's like, well, I'm free of like worrying about whether they liked it or cared enough or appreciated it. Because I recognize that regardless of their reaction or their response, I'm already enough.
One of the things that I've heard and that I love is that a candle doesn't lose anything by lighting another candle. And what I need to quit doing is looking back to see what that light did in their room. Just understand that I am the light that I am, and do what I do.
See, what's so crazy, I love that, because what's interesting is, and you guys are gonna, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Every training I've ever been on with you, I've probably said this. We can find evidence for whatever it is we're looking for. So if I'm Jolene right now and I want to find all the evidence in the world as to why no one ever has cared, not just in doTERRA, my entire life, no one's ever cared, no one's ever like appreciated how much I've given, no one's ever, you can find a ton of evidence for that and be right. Not just find evidence and talk, like you can be justified in it and be right, but you also could go back and find evidence for like, man, there's a lot of people that I've made a difference for. There's a lot of people because of how I showed up and how I've cared and how I've reached out. They didn't feel like it was bugging them. It like really made a difference for them. Right? Like you can find evidence for whatever it is you're looking for. And I would just encourage all of us, like, what is the usefulness in looking to our past for anything other than evidence as to why we're enough? There isn't any usefulness in looking into our past for evidence as to why we're not enough, right? There's also no evidence. There's also no usefulness in looking to the future of what we're afraid of or what we're fearful of, or because we can't, like, the only thing that's useful to look to the future of is like what we're committed to creating, what we're hopeful about, what we're excited about, right? And in the present, who are we committed to being right now as leaders and showing up? But man, I just, and there are some things you can do that though, like the things that you say to yourself. Again, language, right? We talked about language, demonstration, and experiences. There was a talk given by, I forget his name. Maybe I'll send a link to Natalie and they can send that to one. There was a talk given by a leader in a church who talked about, he shared an experience about a young woman in her, I believe in her 20s, that was responsible for a car accident. And in that car accident, the other person involved was a mother of young children. She lost her life. So this girl's in her young 20s. causes this car wreck that kills not just a human being, like takes a mom away from children, takes a wife away from a husband, like, and she's like, I completely believe that I wasn't worthy of love or belonging or anything. Like my life was over. And she said, I fell into this really deep, depression and couldn't see any reason or possibility for like my life. And she said, fortunately I was able to meet with a really inspired counselor who told me, I want you to do one thing. I want you to say out loud, it was a certain number of times a day, I am a child of God. That's the only counseling. And she said, at first I couldn't. Like I literally couldn't bring myself to say it because I didn't see myself that way. I didn't believe it. She said, so eventually I got to the place where I could actually say it in my mind, and maybe she could write it down. And she said, after months and being consistent with it, I got to the point where I could say it out loud, but it almost like would make me physically ill to hear myself say it because I didn't believe it. She said, but I said it long enough, consistently enough, that I started to believe it. I actually started to believe I was a child of God, which then had me see, well, if I'm a child of God, then clearly my life does have purpose. My life does matter. And so what's interesting is like, I wonder how many of us say nice things to ourselves about ourselves, and how often do we do it? And if all of you guys as part of your morning routine aren't doing some type of meditation or breathing or affirmations, like whatever it is, like you're missing a real opportunity. Because one of the things you guys have heard me say a number of times on the call today is how you see yourself is how you show up, right? And how you see yourself has a lot to do with like your worth. Well, one of the ways you can change how you see yourself is you take actions that are consistent with that, right? But you can also change the way you see yourself through language. So if I'm in this place and I'm Jolene and I constantly question whether I'm enough or whether my contribution matters or whether people care, well, guess what I could start saying to myself every single morning if I'm Jolene? I'm enough. People value my contribution. People care about the difference I make. And it might be hard to say that first because you might not believe it, right?
Right.
But what if you said it for like every day for like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, like 3 things, simple, like some point in time in the day, like I am enough, I make a contribution, and I know that people care. Or whatever that is for you, right?
Right.
But it's crazy though how many times we'll say things to ourselves about ourselves that isn't nice, or that isn't kind, or that isn't powerful, right? And wild how rarely we'll actually say nice things to ourselves about ourselves. But with language, you can literally, like that young girl in her 20s, she literally changed, Jolene. Isn't that so crazy? She literally changed through language who she was and how she saw herself. And there was no like huge process to it. It wasn't like this earth-shattering. And it doesn't mean, I think one of the fallacies though is people are like, well, I can't say that because I don't believe it. Well, it's like, yeah, but that's part of the process. It's like she didn't believe it either when she first started saying it, right?
Right.
And there's some amazing research out there that says that the way we use language, if we say it enough to ourselves, there's like a lot of neuroscience out there that will say like after about, I think 25 to 30 days, those thoughts literally create new proteins that carve new neural pathways in our brain. Like literally changes the physical shape of our brain using language. And so, yeah, like my belief, Jolene, is that you do care and that you do make a contribution and you do make a difference. You've just got to know that independent of whether people appreciate it or not, like, you know, that's true already. Like you're already enough.
Well, thank you.
I really appreciate you getting on and sharing that.
You are an absolute blessing in this day. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And one of the things that some of you guys are asking about your story and your message, and I love that you're asking about that because your story and your message has a lot to do with your leadership, right? It's like part of the way that I see myself as a more powerful leader is recognizing that I'm powerful. And one of the ways that I recognize I'm powerful is by looking at the journey of my life and how it got me here, right? Like the Steve Jobs quote, we never connect the dots looking forward. We always connect the dots looking backwards. So I'm going to look backwards and connect the dots on all of the amazing things about myself that have led me here. Okay, let's see.
Hey, Chris.
Yes, sir.
I've got a question for you.
Yep.
So what if in this crazy time and crazy space that we find ourselves in, what if we just feel like crawling into a hole? Like, what if hiding feels like the safest space that we personally can be in? And that's the best we can give. Like, what would you say to someone who's in that space?
Yeah, you know what's so amazing about that, Andy? I love that you asked that question, because I think sometimes when we get into this place, like I have this feeling of like, you know what the thing I want to do right now is I just want to crawl into a hole, like for the rest of the day, and just hide and not talk to anyone. The old me would have been like, well, let me like talk you out of that. Let me like give you a pep talk, and let me help you see why that's not a good thing. And let me like, I think now my response to a team member that felt that way is I would like really try to hear what place they're coming from. It's like, yeah, like tell me about that. Like, what has you want to like crawl in a hole? Like, I want to hear more about that. And if nothing new came to me, I'd be like, you know what I think you should do today? I think you should crawl in a hole and like hide the rest of the day, and let's talk tomorrow. Like, I think sometimes the problem is that we think that when we have these feelings that there's some big like solution and we should dissect it and we should go read a book on like mental psychology. And it's like, or maybe it's okay to just have a really bad day once in a while with like no place to get around it or nothing to do. And then like we wake up the next day and we ask ourselves like, okay, what am I committed to today? And I can say that like, I felt the heaviness of this. Like, guys, like 95% of my business went gone overnight. Like all of my business comes from speaking at events. So I have like, so I'm just pivoting and creating. And yeah, there's been some heaviness. Yeah, there's been times like we're midway into like 2 real estate investment deals with like a lot of cash out, coupled with like my team and like recognizing there's events I've already sponsored and paid money for that I don't know if I'll get the money back. Like, so yes, has there been some days where I wanted to crawl into a hole? Totally. And have there been some afternoons where I've been like, yeah, I'm just going to turn my phone off for the rest of the afternoon and just be with my family or just check out or watch a movie? Yeah. But the thing I've learned to do about that is the minute I do it, the decision's made and I don't like regret it. I don't beat myself up over it. I'm not tomorrow waking up thinking about like, ah, man, how did I let yesterday happen? No, yesterday's happened. Like yesterday's gone. Like the only possibility, and I think it's what one of you, I think Natalie said this at the beginning, is like, who am I being now in the present? Like, what am I committed to creating right now? Like, no worry for what yesterday is. And some things that have helped me though in those crawl in the hole moments is recognizing what I'm grateful for and recognizing like, what am I committed to creating right now and who am I committing to being the present? Because usually what has us want to crawl in a hole, you just have to, I think it'd be useful to see this. Usually what has someone want to crawl in a hole is the weight of the uncertainty and the doubt and the fear and the anxiety about what tomorrow brings, or the tremendous guilt and shame about the past and what I should have already been prepared for now. But if we can just remember like those two things aren't real, what's real is today. So, but I just don't think we should beat ourselves up over, I'd be curious, like what would you say to a teammate, Natalie and Andy, that for like, I just need to crawl in a hole today?
Absolutely the same thing. Like, I love the idea that our heart, if we pay attention to our heart and our mind and what's going on there, if we connect to that, then we've got all the answers inside of us. So there's no need to shut that down. Like, listen to it, pay attention, respond to that, and create. I love how, Chris, again, you're reiterating, we are not creating from the past. We are creating from inspiration today. We're creating in the moment. We're creating what we feel drawn to create. And that's really the only safety, right?
Yeah. It's like, I just like, oh my gosh, like I thought of a new offering last night in the present moment, knowing I was going to be talking to this guy today, had the call with him, kind of had the offering figured out. But as it came to me on the call, literally in the moment where he goes, okay, so what does it look like to work with you? What's the investment? I hadn't put it all together. I just put it together, a half-day virtual with a 90-day retainer. I've never done a retainer thing with somebody. And he said, I'll let you know by tomorrow afternoon at 4. And then my wife and I were just having our 11 to 12 like planning meeting around family brand that we're launching. I keep saying that out in the universe because I'm committed to launching it the more I say it, right? So the family brand that we're planning on launching, and I got an email from him less than 3 hours later, and he goes, hey, I'm in. Like, how do we handle the invoice? And I was just like, boom, like that's it. Like I got to remind myself, if I stayed like committed to creating in the present, like, yeah, could I, if I wanted to spend all day today thinking about, Chris, how in the world you had so much time to build an online business. You had so much time to have digital products. You had so much time to figure out funnels. You had so much time to build a membership community. Is all of that true? Yes. And is all of it gone? Yes. Is any of it useful to think about now? No. And could I be sitting here saying like, man, how do I like float the money for these 2 real estate investments while taking care of my team? How am I going to get that money back from those events I sponsored? Like, could I get wound up in like, what's tomorrow? Yes. Or I could be like, how am I going to launch a training to doTERRA that would impact like thousands of lives? How am I going to launch Family Brand that would impact families right now? How do we pivot on this new offering? All of which I've already been in conversation around today. And I'm not saying that to like look at me as like the model, just like that I struggle with the same temptations of like wanting to crawl in the hole or wanting to, and there's been days where that's okay too. But one of the things I have learned to do is when I do feel like crawling in the hole, just crawl in. And you know what, when I get out tomorrow, I don't worry about the fact that I crawled in it. I'm not like, why did that happen? I think sometimes what has us go into a deeper hole is we're trying to figure out why did I go in there? Like, why was I discouraged? I don't know, you just were. What if there's nothing to like figure out, right? Okay, Jessica, I'm gonna stop preaching. Can you take yourself off mute?
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on. So I think your question was, with nothing I won't say, sometimes I tend to talk too much and make everything a learning experience and my point isn't heard. So I find a balance with that. I guess it's me needing to hear them first so I can hear them. Okay. That's awesome. Anything else? Any other context you would add to that?
You know, if I know that this is supposed to be a business call, but if I'm bringing it back to my home, you know, an area I really struggle with in my home is with my kids, and oh, mom's saying something again. And I guess it's like the deciphering of, because I do get a lot of intuition of, okay, do I need to say this right now? How am I best going to say this to be heard correctly? And then, and then I find I do that with my friends and people that I do talk to about the business, is like, okay, Jessica's talking again.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong. I don't want anyone to take the impression of like, there's nothing wrong. Like if you get an insight or a download about a friend or a team member or like your child, it's like, you really feel prompted around something, you have every right to like, go share that with them. Here's the thing that I would have all of us see. No matter how strong and powerful our insight or our download or our revelation or our inspiration is, it's still ours. It's not theirs. And what I mean by that is, if we haven't built a relationship with that individual prior to that, where they feel safe and heard and like really have the space to talk, they're almost not going to hear it. They'll hear it on the surface, but it'll kind of bounce right off and it'll be like, oh yeah, mom's talking again. And you're over there like, no, like this is really, really important to you, right? So some of that is like, again, I think we have to earn the right to really be heard. And I don't mean just vocally, like people are like, man, when you talk, I'm going to listen. Well, that gets created from a place of like consistency and who we're being, right? But also I would have you see, Jessica, that just because you get this insight or this download or this revelation, what the opportunity might be there isn't to go share the insight, the download, or the revelation. The insight or the download or the revelation might just be the reminder of like, hey, I want to connect with that person. And I had this thought for them, but I'm not going to go like open the conversation with the thought that I had for them. I'm just going to go like, hey, I was thinking about you. And I just wanted to like reach out, like, how are you? What's going on?
Gotcha.
And then if the course of, but I'm not like setting it up, right? I'm not be like, hey, what's going on? Like waiting for the time to insert my thought or my download or my insight in, right?
Yes.
I'm still showing up with no place to get. I'm just realizing that the thought or the download or the impression, the main purpose of it might have been just to like, oh, I should connect with this person and reach out. I just had this. And if in the course of the talking and no place to get and them sharing what's going on and you're able to go deeper, it might trigger that thing, right? Or it might trigger something even more powerful to share with them. So sometimes the insight, the download, or the thought isn't necessarily like, oh, I got to go share this one. It's just that like, I'm thinking about you and there was something I thought that I just had me want to reach out.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's like really, really useful. And again, if we want to be like, yeah, because I want to have those types of relationships that like, anytime I do have something to share advice-wise, if you haven't asked for it, I want to have that relationship with that person where they're like, man, yeah, if Jessica has something to say, like, I'm going to listen because, but I don't think that people grant us that, Jessica, because it's like, oh, he always has good ideas and thoughts. So every time he speaks, I'm going to listen. I think it comes more from a place of like, man, every time I interact with Jessica, I just feel like safe. Every time I interact with Jessica, I just feel like I can like really open up and like not be judged for it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Go ahead, Jessica.
I was just saying, I'm really taking away that I'm going to take those intuitions to remind me to connect with you and not try to teach you something, you know, like dropping my agenda.
Yeah. Yeah. And the inspiration or the download in the connecting with them still might be relevant, right? It still might be like, wow, there's like a real usefulness in sharing it here. But sometimes the intuition or the insight of the download might have just been like, hey, a reminder to reach out to that person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really profound. Like, and it takes time to like, and I can say that like, if you're naturally hardwired like Jessica is and me to like teach and like share thoughts and you are intuitive and you get ideas and downloads, it's hard not to want to share them. It's hard not to want to teach. But here's what I've really, really learned, and I'm still learning it, is that I don't think, if people are really being honest and we really have the same definition of teaching and being taught, I don't know how many people are dying to be taught.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a ton of people dying to be like really seen and really heard. And like, I think there's a ton of people dying to have someone that's really them. And yeah, emerges out of that, you know?
I feel like I tell myself that if I don't tell them, how will they ever know? And then I can hear God tell me, well, honey, you're not me. Like, I don't need to crack open their minds and insert, you know, and I really have to just be the example and be the light and not the one that crack opens their heart. You know, I just need to be there.
Yeah. So again, remember what we talked about earlier, language, demonstration, and experiences.
Right.
So it's like, I get to be the one to use language in our home that have like to the end of maybe connecting with God, right? Or truth or possibility. Then who I'm being is a demonstration, right? Like, so do they see me see truth? Do they see me prayers? Do they see me reading my scriptures? Do they see me experience me as someone that's like not trying to crack them open, but just connecting with them?
Yeah.
And then do I create experiences for us as a family where that actually like takes place? And here's the thing that like Natalie said, when everyone wakes up to this idea that we already always know, and I don't mean like already always know, like I can't be taught something new, but like really learning to trust. Like, one of the people will ask me all the time is like, well, Chris, who should my target market be? You know, when they're private clients of ours and we're helping their story and their message and their clients, and they're like, you know, I just don't know who I'm really feel called to serve. Because we'll ask them questions like that, like, what group of people do you feel most called to serve? And a lot of times our clients will, oh. I'm like, well, that's actually not true. You do know. In fact, you're the only one that can. But it's like you can't trust, like, and I just really believe that most of us, like you just said, Tiffany, like, well, how are they going to know? What if we said, like, what if it was reframed like, well, they already know. It's just I just have an opportunity to like open them up to that possibility that they already know who they are, and just like you said, foster that like a higher source or a higher power. But it's like, yeah, sometimes people, they just need to know. They don't. Teach it to them. And it's like, well, what would be the more powerful way of teaching it to them? By like beating them over the, or creating the space for them to like come to the realization that they do know and know it in their way. That was an amazing question. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, you guys are amazing. I would keep going, but we have built into the schedule now family playtime from 2 to 3. And I was not a demonstration of that last week in a couple days and arguments and stuff. So
Thank you so much for bringing it, Chris. Thank you, all of you, for who you are being out there and how you're taking this in. It's just an amazing time for all of us to get still, become, and stand in the strength of who we are.
yeah, you guys are amazing. You're powerful creators. I know that now is as powerful a time as we're ever going to have in our lives to like really look at like who committed to being as a leader, right? Like how am I committed to showing up? And if you just stay in that, you'll get some answers.
I love it. Let's go out and love up our peeps.
Mm-hmm.
All right. See you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Chris. Love you all. Sending love and blessings.
Yep. Remember, hey, before we end, you need to put that link. We're going to add a link in the chat here of a great video that just reiterates a lot of what Chris has been sharing today. So check it out. It's a video that Laura Jacobs did. It's called Acre of Diamonds. And I think right now we are surrounded by acres of diamonds. So find that in this moment for you. We love you all so much. We hope you take advantage of, if you haven't watched all the things on sharesuccess.com/ready, check those out. There's good resources for you there. And we wanted to bring these to you. Keep referring back. So much love.
Take care.
Ciao.